My ex-girlfriend Sophia is a well-known and indifferent female lawyer in the industry who often wins lawsuits. One day, I lost at Truth or Dare and was required to call my ex-girlfriend and tell her that I was married to see her reaction. As soon as the phone was answered, Sophia asked, "Do you want to get back together?" I quickly interrupted her and said, "I'm married." Unexpectedly, the next second, Sophia replied, "I can use all my knowledge to help you get a divorce." Now, let's start the story. If you like it, please subscribe. I'm a somewhat famous online novelist. That day, I was attending an author's party. I had drunk quite a bit and was feeling a bit dizzy. I don't know who suggested playing Truth or Dare. When it was my turn, the person opposite me demanded, "Call your ex-girlfriend. Be silent for 10 seconds first, don't say anything, and then tell her you're married." As expected of novel writers, their brains are big. As expected of novel writers, their imaginations are really something. Being silent for 10 seconds, is it to give the other person room for daydreaming? I twitched the corners of my mouth, opened the phone contacts, found Sophia's name, hesitated for 2 seconds, and then called. Sophia, my first love and ex-girlfriend, is currently a top-notch and aloof female lawyer in the industry. 5 years ago, after graduating from college, she chose to study abroad. We couldn't survive the long-distance relationship, and our relationship ended without a fight. To be precise, Sophia gradually stopped replying to my messages. I'm not stupid. Such a long-distance relationship was already fragile. The growing coldness was nothing more than that she had fallen in love with someone else and didn't want to break up. Everyone understood this. The phone was connected. "Hello, who is this?" Sophia's cold voice came from the other end of the phone, breaking my train of thought and forcefully pulling me back to reality. I looked at the guys around me making the be quiet gesture, and I followed the rules and didn't speak. 5 seconds later, Sophia asked again, "James, are you listening? For seconds, do you want to get back together? If you do, I also." 1 second, finally. I took a deep breath and said, "Sophia, I'm married." The other side was silent for a while, and then said something I would never forget in my life, "I can use all my knowledge to help you get a divorce." I hung up before a group of friends could start causing trouble. The person sitting next to me patted me on the shoulder and said, "You're amazing, bro. Your girlfriend is so cool. I can already picture it in my mind. Her name is also nice, Sophia. It's so suitable for a female lead in a novel. Don't you think her line is also very impactful? I can use all my knowledge to help you get a divorce. I'm going to write a 10,000-word female, protagonist-dominated story tonight." I really wanted to tell them that Sophia wasn't my girlfriend, and at this moment, I was half sober from the alcohol. These guys, whenever it was my turn, would come up with all kinds of ways to make me call Sophia, either in an ambiguous way, to confess my love, or to propose marriage. They even thought up the lines for me. They claimed it was to find some inspiration and use it as material for their novels, but in fact, they just wanted to make me drink. I didn't do any of their requests. Instead, I just drank a lot, 1 cup, 2 cups, 3 cups, and soon I was drunk and lying on the sofa. In a daze, I saw someone adding me on WeChat. Recently, the publishing house arranged a new editor for me. It was probably her, so I accepted the friend request. The other side sent a message, "Where are you?" Goodness, the new editor wants to urge me to submit the manuscript as soon as she starts, exploiting cheap labor. I sent a voice message, "Today is my day off. I'm not working. I've drunk a bit too much." I didn't know if the other side heard clearly. The other side replied, "Did you drink?" I thought to myself that this little editor was quite smart. I replied, "I drank a little. I'll write the manuscript tomorrow. Let me off today." I really can't afford to offend such a smart editor. Unexpectedly, the other side said, "Send me your location. I'll come to find you." I looked at the message on my phone and showed off to the other authors, "See? The company values me so much." As soon as the editor heard that I drank, she directly offered to come and pick me up. The girl on my other side asked softly, "Does this editor like you?" This girl's pen name is Olivia. She's the one who can make up the most stories here. I mumbled, "How is that possible? This is a new colleague. I haven't even met her." I was already starting to slur my words a bit. Olivia had a gossipy look on her face and directly used my phone to send a location. Olivia said, "Then it's just right to let her come and have a fight with your girlfriend. I'm stuck in my novel and can't write anymore. Let's make good use of the resources." I replied, "Fine. Today, I'll show you all a beautiful love story between a novelist and an editor." I don't know if it was the effect of the alcohol, but I just went for it. Half an hour later, Sophia appeared at the door of the private room. She was wearing a wrap-around, waist-cinching dress. The belt around her waist outlined her graceful curves. Her features were delicate, her eyes and brows were cold and glamorous, and the slightly curled hair ends added just the right amount of charm. I was completely stunned. Why was she here? Before I could speak, Olivia greeted her familiarly. "Are you James's new editor?" Just now, James was telling us that he was going to show us the beautiful love between an editor and an author. I was speechless. That last sentence was really unnecessary. I swallowed hard. Sophia blinked, and her cold eyes locked tightly on me on the sofa. I secretly glanced at the red tear mole under her eye. For some reason, I felt like I was caught having an affair. However, Olivia, afraid that things weren't chaotic enough, asked, "James, is it true?" Sophia pursed her lips and said, "I'm his ex-girlfriend." The next second, Sophia grabbed my wrist, looked at me with a half-smile, and continued, "I'm here to help him with the divorce procedures." The group in the private room gradually faded away. When I came to my senses again, I was already sitting in the car. There was a faint fragrance in the air, and the delicate and beautiful face in front of me was getting closer and closer, with a seductive smile. Her lips gently approached, and her breath fell on the side of my face. I unconsciously reached out and stroked her hair. However, the next second, Sophia asked word by word, "What are you doing?" I was speechless. She continued, "I'm helping you fasten your seatbelt." "What do you think you're doing?" Sophia pulled the seatbelt beside me and buckled it up, then moved away from me without hesitation. I was speechless. I awkwardly retracted the hand I had raised and scratched my head. Looking at her slender fingers like willow branches, I suddenly couldn't help but imagine all kinds of novel materials. Sophia asked, "Where do you live?" I subconsciously replied, "In your heart." I was speechless. What the hell was I saying? I swear I had just thought of a novel material. In the novel, the woman tightly grasped the male protagonist's wrist and asked mournfully, "Do you have a place for me in your heart?" I couldn't wait to slap myself, so I could only silently say "God 100 times in my heart." Sophia asked, "Mr. James, do you know what it means for a married person to have an affair?" Sophia looked at me coldly, opened her red lips slightly, and continued, "Or do you think I, Sophia, would be your mistress for you?" Sophia gradually approached me. Looking at her magnified beauty, I was a bit stunned. The temperature in the car gradually rose, and we got closer and closer. Just when our noses were about to touch, a churning nausea suddenly welled up in my stomach, breaking the ambiguous atmosphere of the moment. Ugh! God, this was so embarrassing. I might as well go to sleep. When I woke up again, my head felt like it was going to split. I didn't open my eyes and muttered to myself, "Is this what it feels like to split?" Then I heard a female voice say, "I don't know if it splits, but how are you going to compensate me for my dress?" Sophia's voice beside me made me sober up a lot. My head didn't hurt anymore, and my back didn't ache either. I sat up with a jerk and said sternly, "Why are you in my house?" Sophia was sitting aside, speechless, and said, "James, open your eyes wide and see clearly before you speak." The minimalist decoration style was completely different from my messy home. I said, "Is this your house?" She replied, "Last night, you vomited all over me. I asked you where you lived, but you just fell asleep without answering." Sophia rested her chin on one hand and stared at me steadily, saying, "You forget that I'm a lawyer. If you died on the way, this lawsuit would be very troublesome for me." I stood up and bowed, saying, "Ha ha ha, thank you, boss, for taking me in. I have nothing to repay you with. I'll take my leave first." I slowly backed away, got out of bed barefoot, and planned to run away. "Wait. Boss, what else do you need?" Sophia said, "My dress." Sophia casually pointed to the black dress on the bedside table that I had vomited on terribly. I smiled awkwardly and said, "Boss, you're so generous. Can I wash it and return it to you?" I swallowed hard, looking at the dress whose fabric alone was worth a fortune, and my scalp tingled. Sophia nodded, and then I nervously moved to the bedside table on her side, picked up the dress with disgust. Ugh! The smell made me want to vomit. While I was thinking wildly, Sophia handed me slippers and said, "The floor is cold." Then she sighed and looked at me with sympathetic eyes, adding, "If you have injuries on your body, don't drink so much. Take care of yourself. Even if you're a boy, if you're domestic abused, you can call the police. You might as well get a divorce." Damn it, what kind of nonsense is this? What is she talking about? I want to see my lawyer. Me, a grown man, being domestic abused. What kind of thinking is this? This is humiliation, slander. I looked down at my body. There were several bruises on my chest and arms. I was speechless. These were clearly from my recent Sanda training. The coach hit me. Just as I was about to refute, I saw Sophia pursing her lips and looking at me with moist eyes, saying, "I won't spread this today. After you wash the clothes, I won't contact you again." I was furious. When we were dating, she was like this, always making wild guesses. Now that we've broken up, she's still the same. It's really ridiculous. I said I had diarrhea, and Sophia insisted that I go for a gastroscopy. I said I was going to sleep, and Sophia insisted that I must have gone out to fool around. I said I was married, and she imagined that I was unhappy in my marriage. So I stood up and said, "I'm leaving." I put on my coat and left Sophia's house. She said indifferently, "I'll see you off." I was about to refuse when she said, "The clothes are expensive. I'm afraid you'll run away." Damn it, fine. So I could only report my address, and the atmosphere was very awkward all the way. We didn't say a word the whole time. "I'm here. I'll go first." Holding Sophia's dress, I didn't want to stay with her for a minute longer. I met Sophia in college. That day, I went to the library and saw her sitting by the window reading a book, with her legs crossed, looking cold and noble. My heart skipped a beat. I felt that the female protagonist in my novel suddenly had a face. At this moment, any beautiful words to describe her would be appropriate. I summoned up my courage, asked for her contact information, and pestered her every day, finally winning over this high mountain flower. Later, ring, ring, ring. The phone ringing interrupted my memories. I answered the phone, and the angry voice of the chief editor came from inside. "Your campus-themed long story novel has been stuck for a month. Readers said that if you don't update the story, they'll send us razor blades." I replied, "Hee, chief editor, I just don't have any inspiration. After the male and female protagonists graduated, I don't know how to write the story anymore." I said in a low voice, afraid of making her angry, "How about I submit the short story for the serial journal first? I have ideas for that." The chief editor said, "James, I'll give you 1 week, the last time. Hurry up and update the story. Otherwise, you don't want to see my dead body appear in your house, giving you some horror material, do you?" The chief editor's gloomy voice came from the other end of the phone. I felt a chill on my back, and then she hung up the phone. It's so hard. I ruffled my hair randomly. Why is my life so miserable? I took Sophia's clothes to the dry cleaners, gave the dry cleaners boss 1,000 instructions to be careful with the cleaning, and then went home. Sadly, I sat in front of the computer. The novel got stuck at the part where the female protagonist, Mia, went abroad to study and was maintaining friendly phone communication with the male protagonist, William. I just couldn't write anymore. Yes, this representative work of mine is about the story of me and Sophia. I liked writing novels when I was in college. At that time, I always recorded the past between me and Sophia. For example, in the winter when we first got together, I bought her a roasted sweet potato to warm her hands, but she smiled and put her hand into my pocket, her fingers gently touching mine. That was our first hand holding. Our hands, along with that roasted sweet potato, were warm in the pocket. Another example was when I put a scarf and a cute big orange hat on her. Her eyes were shining, and she tilted her head and asked, "What would I do without you?" The sunlight just shone on Sophia's face. At that moment, time was peaceful. And another time, on the eve of her going abroad, I hugged her tightly with red eyes and said, "I'll wait for you to come back." After Sophia went abroad, I started writing and made a way out in the online novel world. Later, I ran out of ideas and never touched male-oriented sweet love novels again. The reason was that I broke up with Sophia, and she took away all my inspiration and talent. 3 months ago, it was rumored on the internet that James, who was good at writing sad stories, had run out of inspiration and could no longer write sweet love stories. I didn't accept it. I tossed and turned for several days, so angry that I couldn't sleep. But when I sat in front of the computer, my mind was blank. I really couldn't write anymore. The chief editor roared at me like this at that time, "If you can't write, go find a girlfriend. Stop talking nonsense. Don't ruin the reputation of our publishing house." I had no choice. I opened my phone and, somehow, flipped through the memo from my campus days. I decided to give it a try. I beautified the bits and pieces between me and Sophia in the memo with words and published them. Since then, the rumor that James had run out of inspiration and couldn't write sweet love stories was self-defeated. But after 2 months of updating, I stopped updating because the story between me and her only went up to here. In order to keep my job, I had to start making up stories again. But how could I just make up an ending for a real life story? My head was buzzing. Maybe I should just give them a bad ending. I started typing, writing the story of me and Sophia in the identities of Mia and William. News about Mia disappeared without a trace. William couldn't stand it anymore. Even when they had a video call, they still looked at each other in silence. The long-distance relationship was really too tiring. He proposed to break up. When I wrote to this part, my heart also tightened. I clicked publish and closed the computer. The sunlight outside was so good. I posted on Twitter, a novel is like the author's child. Only by pouring in effort and injecting soul can more people like it. After replying to a few fans' comments, I browsed Google to find inspiration. Google didn't deceive me. I got new materials. After provoking Sophia, I was really in a bad mood. I sent a WeChat message to the chief editor and started to conceive a new story. I didn't sleep or rest for several days. Every day, except for going up and down the stairs to get takeout, I didn't go out. I wrote continuously for a week, and the new story was completed. I sent the file to the chief editor, and the chief editor replied coldly with an okay. Just as I was about to turn off my phone, Sophia's message popped up, "Where's my dress?" I was speechless. I had been so busy these 2 days that I had forgotten about it. I quickly replied, "I'll send it over now." I hurriedly put on my clothes and went downstairs to get the dress. However, as soon as I got the dress, Sophia sent a message saying, "I'm at the door." God, she came so quickly. I rushed to the gate of the community. Sophia's eye-catching red Porsche was parked at the door. I handed the clothes to her through the car window and said, "Here's your dress. It's been washed." Sophia shook her head and said, "Get in first. I want to talk to you about something." Sitting in the car, Sophia stared at me intently. I felt a bit of a tingle on my scalp. After a long while, she finally opened her mouth and asked, "Did you have an unpleasant experience with her?" "Who?" I didn't react for a moment. She said seriously, "Your wife." Damn it, is this thing never going to end? Does she really think I am a coward who was beaten by his wife? I was speechless. I almost spat out and asked, "What makes you say that?" She said, "I often passed by your building this week and saw you always getting takeout and throwing out the trash alone. It's obvious that you're not happy in your marriage." I widened my eyes and angrily rebuked, "Sophia, are you spying on me? How long did she have to lurk around to see me always alone? What a creepy, Yandere-like character." The more I thought about it, the more terrified I became. But Sophia said with an innocent look, "I just happened to pass by." I directly exposed her. How coincidental would that be to just see me taking out the trash and getting takeout? Sophia snorted and said, "That's not important. What's important is that you answer my question quickly." I gave up and said, "Can't she just not come home often?" Sophia asked in shock, "So you married a woman who lives with someone else and then beats you up when she comes back?" Sophia stared at me, and the beauty mark at the corner of her eye was very obvious. I was so angry that I almost laughed. I pursed my lips and said, "Do you have anything else? If not, I'm leaving." As soon as I got out of the car, Sophia also opened the car door. She pushed me, who was completely confused, back to the passenger seat, then she trotted back to the driver's seat and started the car. I was speechless and asked, "Sophia, where are you taking me?" Sophia drove very fast, looking very worried. After a long time, she replied, "I'm taking you to the hospital for a check-up." I asked, "Why would I go to the hospital? I'm fine." Sophia replied, "You've been domestically abused, but you don't want to get divorced. There must be something wrong with your mental state." What the hell? What kind of nonsense is this? I wanted to see my lawyer. I directly opened the car door, and she was so scared that she quickly stopped the car. I got up without hesitation, took a taxi, and went home. In the evening, Sophia called me. I was stunned. When we broke up, I didn't block her, but she had never called me before. I picked up the phone and asked, "What's up?" She said, "You forgot to give me my clothes back." I didn't want to see her again, so I asked, "How much are they?" "I'll transfer the money to you." She said, $160,000. I replied, "I'll send them to you." I had to bow to the reality for the sake of money and yield to the so-called evil forces. Just as I was about to hang up the phone, Sophia said, "James, if it were you." I was confused and asked, "If it were me, what?" She continued, "If your wife really lives with someone else and doesn't come back." I was even more confused and asked, "Come back for what?" She pursed her lips and said, "James." Then she was silent for a long time. I suddenly had an epiphany and asked, "Don't tell me you want to be my mistress?" I had lied to her that I was married, and she actually believed it. Then I lied to her that my wife didn't come home, and she still believed it without a doubt. However, when Sophia said she wanted to be my mistress, I was really shocked. I couldn't even imagine it. I continued to ask, "Sophia, do you really want to be with me? Even though I have a wife?" Seeing that she didn't answer, I asked again. After a long while, she replied softly, yes. Getting an affirmative answer, I was completely stunned. When Sophia was in school, she was the ideal type of many boys. She is like a flower on the high mountain, and I have to work hard to pursue it. Now, she actually wants to be my mistress. Sophia then said, since it's decided, let's go out for a meal together after all these years. I'll invite you at 3 o'clock tomorrow afternoon. After that, she directly hung up the phone. What was going on? Although I didn't have a wife, she thought I did. Recalling the conversation just now, an inexplicable emotion welled up in my heart again. In fact, the reason why Sophia and I broke up was not like in novels, with things like cheating, misunderstandings, or family feuds. It was just that we had a time difference. Gradually, Sophia replied to my messages less and less, and sometimes we couldn't even talk for 2 days. The fuse that led to our breakup was a Valentine's Day a few years ago. She pitifully told me that it was another Valentine's Day that we couldn't spend together. To fulfill her wish, the day before Valentine's Day, I took a red-eye flight, full of joy, wanting to give her a surprise. However, I sent countless messages, but she didn't reply. It was not until I left dejectedly that I received a text message from her. Sorry, I didn't know you were coming. I had a case come up suddenly, and my phone ran out of power, so I didn't have time to tell you. Happy Valentine's Day. I suddenly felt it was quite meaningless. How could it be such a coincidence that she just didn't have time to send a message that day? I'm not a fool. What else could be the reason for turning off the phone on Valentine's Day? So, I resolutely sent Sophia a message saying let's break up, and then deleted all her contact information. I was in a low mood for a long time. It was the editor-in-chief who came to my house in person and forced me to cheer up. Just like that, we separated completely. Now, this once unattainable beauty was actually willing to put aside her pride and be my mistress. I really never expected this. Just like when we first met, I was still attracted to her. The next day, I deliberately styled my hair neatly, shaved my beard clean, and adjusted my glasses that exuded a literary air. Looking at Sophia, I asked in a very polite tone, "Where are we going to eat?" Sophia looked at my baggy shorts and replied, "Sakura-oriented sushi restaurant." That was the sushi restaurant that Sophia and I went to every Valentine's Day. But after we broke up, I never went there again. I asked, "Sophia, are you willing?" She didn't answer me. She just looked at my baggy shorts again and said, "Your wife doesn't take good care of you. Let's go to the mall to pick out a piece of clothing later." I refuted, "Hey, don't be so concerned about appearances. I've always been careless about such things." Sophia replied, "I'll pay." I immediately said, "Okay." When we arrived at the sushi restaurant, we looked at each other without speaking. Sophia gently and considerately put the beef in the sukiyaki pot for me. Soon, my bowl was full. I ate it all without hesitation, thinking that I must make her pay a lot. After paying the bill, Sophia took me to the mall upstairs. I felt a little embarrassed. Is it inappropriate for a girl to pay for the meal and then buy me clothes? Who is the mistress here? But then I suddenly remembered that on Valentine's Day, I was like a fool waiting at the airport for a whole day, gnawing on a cold, fishy-smelling burger that cost €10. Thinking about this, I felt it was okay again. So, on the way to the mall, I asked her to buy me 5 more burgers. With the burgers in my right hand, my left hand subconsciously reached out to hold Sophia's hand, just like in the past. The moment our hands intertwined, both of us stiffened. I was about to let go, but she held on tightly. I turned around and met her gentle eyes. What was this ambiguous atmosphere? Just as I was about to speak, she said, "James, you took my hand first." We just held hands like this, neither of us speaking. When we reached the door of a store, Sophia tugged at my hand, and I stopped. She said, "This one." I looked up and saw that it was the store she used to pester me to visit every Valentine's Day. I sighed. She still remembered. She carefully measured the clothes on me. I have to say that Sophia has much better taste than I do, a rough guy. I only tried on 3 pieces, and they really made me look much cooler than my baggy shorts. Sophia asked, "James, which one do you like more? I want to buy it for you." I looked at the price tag and was a little shocked. Then I turned to the salesgirl and said, "Hey, wrap them all up. Charge it to the card." I added, "Charge it to her card." Sophia looked speechless but still handed the card to the salesgirl. After asking the salesperson to cut the label of one of the clothes, I put it on directly, nodded, and said, "Okay, I'll take you home." Sophia said speechlessly, "We're already here. Don't we watch a movie? Isn't the general dating process to watch a movie and then have a dinner?" I replied, "Hey, let's not be so rigid." Sophia said, "I'll treat you to the movie." I immediately said, okay. Sophia looked speechless again. We watched a love movie. When the hero and the heroine kissed, I subconsciously glanced at Sophia. She blushed shyly and met my gaze. I said, hey, watch the movie properly. What are you looking at me for? After watching the movie, Sophia's face was still tinged with a blush. I looked at her unnatural expression and asked, what's wrong? She said, it's nothing. I'm just a little hot. Maybe I'm wearing too much. Maybe we should stop here today. I was speechless. Didn't we agree to have dinner? Women are really fickle. Well, after eating 5 burgers, I didn't have much of an appetite for dinner either. When we came out of the cinema, it was already dark. Sophia said that it was not safe for a girl to go home alone, so she asked me to take her to her doorstep. I said, you're home. I'll go now. Just as I was about to turn around and leave, Sophia leaned against the door with one hand and grabbed my collar with the other, pulling me very close. So close that I could see the tiny tremors of her eyelashes, and the fragrant breath from her charming lips blew across my face. After a long time, she said, pick me up tomorrow night. We'll continue. Have an early rest. Then she closed the door. I was speechless. How did she become a domineering female president? Is this the trend abroad? She suddenly became so skilled. She was like a different person. The next second, Sophia sent a message saying, I'm going to take a bath now. Send me a message when you get home. Looking at the message on the phone, I was a little distracted. This was like a girlfriend asking her boyfriend to report his itinerary. I replied, okay. The next day, Sophia sent me a good morning message, and I replied. She called me and said, you got up so early? I said, yeah, I have to submit my manuscript today. I'm so unlucky. The editor-in-chief found a bunch of typos in my sad ending story. I admit I was a little careless, but before, there was an editor friend who helped me deal with it. Now I'm all alone. She asked, will it affect me treating you to dinner tonight? I could hear a trace of worry in Sophia's tone, so I immediately replied, of course not. A few typos are nothing. I'll finish it soon. After all, revising the manuscript can't delay my chance to have a free meal. Sophia said, okay. You can think about what we'll eat tonight. Can you come pick me up at 7 o'clock tonight? Okay. After that, we hung up the phone. If only Sophia had been so understanding 5 years ago. I turned on the computer and started typing. While I was writing, a friend's call came in. James, how's it going? Do you have any weird material about 2 women fighting over a man? I angrily rebuked, how dare you ask? If you hadn't sent her my location, would there have been such a mess? I wish I could plant her in a radish field. Olivia replied, ha, it's for the literary work. Don't be angry, James. Who knew it was your ex-girlfriend who came? I said, I won't talk to you for now. The editor-in-chief sent my manuscript back. There are too many typos. Today is another working day. After hanging up the phone, I started to seriously revise the manuscript. It was probably around 4 o'clock in the afternoon when I finally finished revising the manuscript. After sending it to the editor-in-chief, I complained, Editor-in-chief, when can you give me a new editor? He replied, now. The editor-in-chief really lived up to his reputation as a word-sparing and employee-squeezing devil. His efficiency was really high. I immediately received a new friend request. The other party sent a message saying, hello, Mr. James. I'm Chloe, the new intern editor. The new editor was a girl. Judging from her way of speaking, she should be quite young. She also sent cute emojis. I replied politely, hello. Please take care of me too. I quickly browsed her WeChat circle of friends. She was definitely a beauty. She replied, Mr. James, I'll bring you the contract for the new article tomorrow. After you sign it, you can send me a message, and then I'll come to pick it up. This girl was a bit overly polite, so I could only reply politely, thank you for your hard work. Thanks. I sent her my location and home address, and then we didn't talk anymore. At 7 o'clock in the evening, I picked up Sophia on time. Sitting in the car, we were less nervous. I said, Sophia, I'll put a lipstick in the car so that you don't forget to touch up your makeup if you need it. She said, okay. I don't know why, but I always felt that she was in a much better mood. I was puzzled and asked, do you have something happy today? Sophia thought seriously and then said, does seeing you count? I shook my head and said, hey, don't build your happiness on my pain. Sophia asked, then shall we not eat? I said, no way. The conversation didn't continue. We arrived at our destination. This time, it was a Hunan cuisine restaurant. The owner was a very nice big brother. Sophia pushed the menu in front of me. I was a bit polite and ordered a whole table of dishes. Sophia twitched her mouth slightly and asked, "Can we finish all this?" I said, "Hey, if we can't finish, we'll pack it." I waved my hand grandly. The food was served quickly, and I ate heartily. Looking at the empty plates on the table, Sophia widened her eyes and asked, "James, you can eat even more than before after not seeing you for a few years." I gritted my teeth and said, "My life is so miserable. My wife has run away. If I don't eat and drink, what's the point of living?" I looked at her with a mischievous glint in my eye. Sophia's face visibly turned sad. Looking at her, I suddenly wanted to tease her and asked, "Sophia, if I get divorced, will you marry me?" She looked into my eyes, said nothing, and got up to pay the bill. On the way home, we didn't say a word. I was a bit unhappy and didn't want to talk either. So, did she just like the thrill of being a mistress and that's why she got back together with me? When we arrived at the gate of her community, she seemed to want to say something but stopped. I didn't give her a chance to speak and just drove away. When I got home, to be honest, I was in a bad mood. Did Sophia just want to play around? Or did she just like seducing married men? Thinking about it, I chose to sleep it off. The next day, Sophia didn't contact me, but Chloe came to bring me the contract. She looked exactly the same as in the photo, even more beautiful. She was about 1.65 meters tall, with a sweet-looking face and a pair of cute tiger teeth. "Mr. James, Mr. James." Chloe waved her hand in front of me, pulling me back to reality. I said, "Oh, sorry, I was distracted just now." "What did you say?" I scratched my head in embarrassment. She said, "I want to ask, if you like a very, very happy person and you feel that you are not worthy of her, if you want to be with her, what would you do?" A blush appeared on Chloe's face. I thought carefully about my love story with Sophia and then told her, probably just keep pestering her and be sincere. Remember, sincerity is the most powerful weapon. She said, "Okay, thank you, teacher. Then I'll go. I'll ask you if I have any questions." Chloe bowed politely. I said, "I'll see you out." I sent Chloe downstairs and then went back upstairs. When I turned on my phone, Sophia still hadn't sent me a message. She didn't send one on the third day either, nor on the fourth day. A week passed, and she still didn't contact me. I was a bit depressed, but soon I was too busy with the tasks assigned by the editor-in-chief to be depressed. I don't know why, but this month the editor-in-chief arranged a lot of work for me. I not only had to submit 3 short campus series stories but also had to sign books for readers as a way to give back. It took me a month to finish all the work at hand. Suddenly, I remembered that I hadn't given the signed contract to Chloe. Looking at the time, it was still early, just 4 o'clock in the afternoon. I called Chloe and said, "Chloe, could you come and pick up my contract?" She replied, "Right now?" Chloe's tone was very sad when she spoke. I quickly said, "If it's not convenient for you, you can come tomorrow." I could tell that something was wrong with her. But she said, "Teacher, I'll come right now." Chloe was nearby and told me she could be there in 10 minutes. Looking at the garbage I had accumulated over the past half month, I told Chloe to wait downstairs. I could take the garbage down and give her the contract at the same time. When I saw Chloe, she was carrying a heart-shaped cake and pouting as she walked over. I handed her the contract and looked at the heart-shaped cake in surprise, asking, "What's this?" Chloe replied dejectedly, "I made this cake myself, but my confession failed." "Teacher, do you think there's still a chance for me and the boy I like?" I didn't know how to comfort her. After all, my own love life wasn't that great. So I sighed and said, "Sincerity is the best way to win someone's heart." Chloe actually started crying. "Alas, I'm so miserable, woo-woo." I was at a loss as I watched the little girl crying convulsively in front of me. She said, "Teacher, can you give me a hug?" Chloe looked so vulnerable that I couldn't refuse. I gave her a big hug. She hugged me and cried for a long time, then wiped her tears, showed her 2 small canine teeth, and said, "Thank you, Teacher James. I feel much better. Teacher, if you don't mind, I'd like to give you this cake." Just like that, I received the cake in a daze and then went upstairs in a daze. Back upstairs, I put the heart-shaped cake on the table, took a photo of it casually, and posted a tweet, "Sincerity is always the greatest trump card." Fans commented below, "Has James found a new girlfriend?" Thinking of Sophia's face and the fact that she hadn't contacted me for several days, I replied, "I'm considering it." At 2 o'clock in the morning, I couldn't sleep, so I was watching horror videos to find inspiration. The sudden knock on the door startled me. "Is there a ghost?" I tiptoed to the peephole at the door and took a look. It was Sophia. What was she doing here at 2 o'clock in the morning? I opened the door, and Sophia hugged me tightly. She reeked of alcohol. I didn't stand steady and fell to the ground with her. Sophia. I called her name tentatively. She leaned her head on my shoulder and whispered in my ear, "You can only have me as your mistress." I could tell that she was in a bad mood. I said, "You're drunk." I tried to push her away, but the next second she was about to fall backwards, so I had to pull her back. She sobbed and said, "I'm not drunk. I saw it. That girl gave you a heart-shaped cake, and you even hugged her." Sophia saw the cake Chloe gave me, which was quietly placed on her right side. She said resentfully, "Isn't one mistress enough? James, I'm insanely jealous." I was speechless and explained, "Chloe is my editor. She was rejected, and she gave me the cake since she didn't need it anymore." Sophia regained some sense and leaned against the wall, looking at me helplessly. I asked, "So is this the reason you didn't come to see me?" I looked at her and found it a bit funny. She stammered, "These days I've been researching divorce agreements and clauses on how to get the most post-marital property." I asked, "What do you need those for?" I tilted my head, puzzled by her actions. Sophia asked, "Don't you want to marry me? Didn't you say that if you divorced, you'd marry me?" I asked in surprise, "Sophia, if I divorce, I'll be a divorced man. Can you accept a divorced man?" Sophia replied, "Yes, if it's you." Looking at her serious expression, I felt a little flustered. Sophia looked up and stared straight into my eyes, saying solemnly, "Be with me. I won't give you a chance to divorce like she did." I asked, "Are you planning to become the wife from being a mistress?" She said, "Yes." Sophia's eyes dimmed a bit. It seemed she knew how disgraceful this was. I pretended to be a bit hesitant and looked at her, asking, "Then if I divorce, when will you marry me?" She replied, "Anytime." Then she solemnly took out her household register and handed it to me, saying, "As long as you're willing." I pretended to be flustered, took Sophia's household register, and said, "Well, I'll think about it. For now, I don't want a divorce." Sophia's eyes dimmed again. I suddenly thought she had a kind of broken beauty. It wouldn't be impossible to replace the female lead in a sadomasochistic novel with her face. I continued to ask, "Then do you still want to maintain a mistress relationship with me?" Thinking of how she made me make a vain trip abroad in that delicious hamburger, I decided to deceive her for a while longer. Sophia asked, "Then can I see you often?" I asked why not. "What's the problem?" She said, "What if your wife comes back?" Sophia didn't finish. I said, "Oh, her. Don't worry. She won't be back anytime soon. Even if we do something, she won't be able to come back." After saying that, I looked down and saw Sophia looking at me suspiciously. I tried to make up for it, saying, "Sophia, I didn't mean that." She didn't speak, but suddenly showed a look of realization and stood on tiptoe. Well, strange. How did her kissing skills get so good? I frowned and asked, "How did your kissing skills improve so much? How many people did you date abroad?" She replied seriously, "Only you." In the morning, when the first ray of sunlight shone in, I somehow had the thought of chasing after a cow to bite it. Oops, sorry, wrong scene. I watched the sunlight sprinkle on Sophia's beautiful face and felt inexplicably happy. I had a house, an electric bike, and a beautiful woman by my side. Sophia's eyelids twitched, she half opened her eyes, covered the sunlight with her hand, and said in a hoarse voice, "You're awake?" I replied, "Just woke up." Caught peeking on the spot, I awkwardly rubbed my hair. She smiled faintly and said, "Then I'll go make you breakfast." I watched Sophia's busy back in the kitchen, and a hint of sweetness welled up in my heart. Suddenly, the problem of getting stuck in writing a novel was solved. It was time to let the female lead return to the country and get back together with the male lead. Inspiration came instantly. After washing up, I couldn't wait to turn on the computer and get to work. After last night, inspiration in my mind gushed out like a fountain, so I quickly started typing. A voice suddenly came, "James, it's time to eat." Sophia came to the living room. I was startled by the voice, guiltily saved the document, then closed the computer, walked to the table, and said, "You can cook now?" I picked up a fried egg and put it in my mouth. My eyes lit up immediately. You know, when Sophia and I were in the rental house in China, we always ordered takeout to solve the meal problem. I once mentioned that I wanted to eat the food she cooked herself, but her cooking skills were really not flattering at that time, so I never asked her to cook again. I asked, "Did you learn it for some guy?" She replied, "I learned it for you." I rolled my eyes and unconsciously increased the force when biting the fried egg. After the meal, Sophia was going to work. Before leaving, she asked me, "Can you live with me?" I was afraid she would see that my novel was based on our story, so I refused on the grounds that I might occasionally receive video calls from the editor-in-chief, blocking her slightly dissatisfied face outside the door. I took a deep breath, a smile with a hint of conspiracy appeared on my face, and the theme of the mistress ascending to the position of wife and the subsequent chasing after the husband in remorse plot took shape in my mind. I started typing frantically. Finally, I wrote the plot of the female lead Mia returning to the country. Mia stood at the airport with a suitcase, showing a bitter smile, and said silently, "I'm back." "Where are you?" When I wrote this, I stopped. After delaying the manuscript for a month, I updated a chapter to see what the readers' reactions were. James, don't just focus on falling in love and forget to update. Why is it sweet and then sad again? I want to send you razor blades, give me your address. Author, it's been a month. My cat has lost weight because it can't read your story, you know? Someone also said, there's a person named Yu Wei who often doesn't update, and a lot of people touched her hair. I couldn't help twitching the corners of my mouth. The readers were as humorous as ever. At this time, an anonymous comment caught my attention. His English is not good, and there's a ghostwriter behind him. I have evidence. This comment had been scolded to the top, but there were all loyal readers speaking up for me below. I smiled and thought, you don't know my story, and you don't understand my experience. I didn't pay attention to this comment anymore, leaned back, and rested against the back of the sofa chair. It was really comfortable. I thought of Sophia and still couldn't help my heart beating faster. It was really strange. I thought to myself, it's not like it's the first time I've been with her. Why am I still like this? Sophia sent me a message, I'm at the company. I have a case to deal with today. Is it okay if I come to see you a little later? I replied with okay. Sophia is becoming more sensible and knows to report her itinerary to her boyfriend. I'm very pleased. I clicked on her WeChat moments and found that she had taken a photo of breakfast with the caption young married woman. I couldn't help muttering, what the hell is young married woman? Won't this make her friends think she's married? What's she up to? Emma, a college classmate I hadn't been in touch with for a long time, sent me a message. James, do you know that Sophia is married? Emma has always been gossipy. The news that Sophia and I were together was quite a sensation back then. I replied a little nervously, I don't know. She said, well, it's been so long since you broke up. That bitch doesn't deserve you. Are you coming to the class reunion tomorrow night? We haven't seen each other for several years and want to get together. I didn't want to go at first, but Emma told me that Mark, a rich second generation in our class, was treating us and had booked a table at the most expensive 5-star restaurant in the city. I touched my stomach and unashamedly agreed. In the evening, when I was having dinner, I told Sophia about this. She asked me for the location and said, I can hide and wait for you downstairs. I thought about it and thought it was feasible. Anyway, she would be downstairs. If I left the table early for a while, no one would notice. So I agreed. She asked, are you that afraid of your wife finding out? Sophia obviously misunderstood. Her mouth pouted so much that a teapot could be hung on it. I explained, it's not like that. My classmates are too gossipy. If they know I'm still with you, they'll keep asking questions. Sophia didn't say anything more. After dinner, we held hands and took a walk in the community, chatting casually. Most of the time, she was listening. We were like an ordinary young couple, taking a walk and chatting in a harmonious atmosphere. When we arrived downstairs, I said goodbye to her. She said, no matter how long it takes, I'll wait. I went upstairs somewhat forgetfully, mechanically opened the mobile phone memo, and recorded everything that happened to us today. About half an hour later, Sophia's message appeared on my phone on time, I'm home. Good night. I replied, good night. 5 years had passed between us. It seemed that everything had changed, yet also seemed that nothing had changed. I could clearly feel that she cared about me. Although we didn't communicate much usually, I could truly feel this sentiment. Perhaps it was because we had both matured. After writing another manuscript, I washed up and went back to bed. Just thinking about the little details of my time with Sophia every day filled me with joy. I planned to tell her that I wasn't married in a while and give her a scare. The next day, I was typing in the morning and also in the noon. I handed in another chapter of the sweet, love-long story to Chloe. She said she could finish proofreading it before 8 o'clock tonight. I integrated the story of Sophia and me into Mia and William, and it received a very good response. The popularity of the novel was getting higher and higher, surpassing all the articles I had written before. The editor-in-chief sent me a serious message, James, you've been doing a good job recently. Keep it up. I smiled slightly. It seemed he was in a good mood, otherwise he wouldn't have typed so many words. In the evening, I drove to the class reunion. As soon as I entered the private room, I heard a familiar voice, "Brother, you're here." Looking up, I saw Ava standing and waving at me, saying, "Come and sit here quickly." I forgot to mention that this rich little lady is my childhood friend. We went to school together since we were kids and were classmates until college. When she was in primary school, because her name was like a boy's, she was laughed at as a tomboy by her classmates. It was me who slapped the talkative boys in the class with a brick and shut them up. Since then, no one dared to say a bad word about Ava, and she became my little tale. After high school, we were in different classes. Ava, because of her outstanding appearance, had more and more boys around her, and our contact gradually decreased. I looked at the sumptuous dishes on the table, swallowed my saliva, and said, "You're still rich. So generous." Ava blushed and lowered her head, while Emma said proudly, "James is now a popular online writer." I said, "You're overpraising me. Let's eat first." I sat next to Ava. She propped her chin with one hand and talked to me about a lot of things from our childhood, occasionally showing a nostalgic smile. After a few rounds of drinking, the atmosphere on the table became lively. Ava whispered in my ear, "Brother, I heard that there's no chance for you and Sophia anymore?" I asked, "Who did you hear that from? Why does everyone know about me and Sophia?" The next second, Emma said, "Let's play truth or dare. Spin the bottle. Abigail, you spin first." Emma's words interrupted what Ava was going to say. Unfortunately, the first one to be spun was Emma. A classmate asked, "Did you have a crush on anyone in college? If so, say who it is." The first question was so explosive that the atmosphere was instantly pushed to a climax. Emma blushed and said reluctantly, "Yes, Shinzei from the Department of Hydraulic Engineering." The classmates make trouble. "Oh, no wonder you often took Professor Zhang's courses in the Department of Hydraulic Engineering." After playing a few more rounds, it was Ava's turn. A boy in the class who loved to stir things up asked her, "Do you have a crush on anyone?" "Yes. Ava is a rich second generation in our class, a princess of a wealthy family, a young lady." Some classmates who loved to stir things up had already taken out their phones to record the video. I was watching Ava with great interest, but unexpectedly, she turned her eyes to me, bit her lip, and said, "Brother, I've liked you since I was a kid." I was stunned. Wow, led by Emma, the classmates let out a scream. Ava continued, "I once secretly added Sophia as a friend. When I saw her post a picture with the caption 'A married woman' on her moments yesterday and asked Emma about you two, I found out that you two hadn't made up since you separated. I thought maybe my chance had come." I asked, "Then why didn't you say it before?" I swear, I didn't notice at all that Ava liked me. From childhood to adulthood, we were like buddies. She had also dated boyfriends, and they all broke up quickly. She said, "When I was a kid, I changed so many boyfriends to make you angry, but you didn't react at all, brother. I thought I had no chance. When I grew up and wanted to confess, you were with Sophia again, and I felt very inferior." Ava lowered her head. Yes, in front of someone as dazzling as Sophia, I had also felt inferior. Ava looked at me nervously and asked, "Brother, Sophia is married. Will you give me a chance?" The classmates all started to make trouble. "Say yes, say yes." I was just about to refuse when Sophia knocked on the door and walked in. I was speechless. Why did she come? No, how did she get in? For a moment, it was dead silent. Sophia just stood there, leaning against the door, staring at me. Ava seemed to react and looked at me, then at her, asking, "Brother, haven't you broken up?" Sophia said softly, "He's married. I'm his mistress." There were all kinds of screams around, both male and female. I immediately wanted to find a hole in the ground to crawl into. Ava said in confusion, "Brother, you too." After a moment, as if she had made some major decision, she continued, "Brother, if you need, I can also be." Sophia interrupted her mercilessly, "He only needs one mistress." Then she pulled me away from the table. "Back in the car," I said, somewhat displeased. "Sophia, how could you say that? What will they think of me after the class reunion?" Sophia snorted. "What, are you brave enough to do it but not to admit it? Or are you afraid your wife will find out?" I retorted, What am I afraid of? If this gets out, you'll be the one who gets scolded even worse." I heard her soft laughter echoing in my ears, and in an instant, the anger in my heart vanished without a trace. She asked, "Are you full?" "Yeah." "Did you drink?" "No." She said, "Well, you're awesome. You deserve a reward." She followed me home, went upstairs to the bedroom, then stood on tiptoe and kissed me, saying, "I have to work overtime tonight. You go to bed early." With that, she left straight away, leaving me standing there in a daze. How could she do this? tease me and then run off. I was so angry that I frantically wrote 10,000 words and woke up the poor Chloe to proofread the manuscript. Chloe said weakly, "Teacher James, we don't have to push this hard." I replied, "Go read the manuscript." She answered, "Okay," but I was asleep. Poor Chloe. When I woke up, I saw the proofreading message she sent me at 3 a.m. and suddenly felt a bit guilty. I sent a message saying, "Thanks for your hard work." Chloe didn't reply. She was probably still asleep. As usual, I replied to Sophia's good morning message. She said she had to work overtime these 2 days and didn't have much time to come over. She said, "Brother, I can't come over to cook for you. You must be so sad, right? How about I transfer you some money so you can order something delicious?" I replied, transferring money is so tacky. It makes me seem like I'm a kept man. You can just pay for me later. Recently, the sweet novels have received an excellent response, and the number of monthly tickets for rewards is quite impressive. Also, because my relationship with Sophia has been progressing rapidly, I've been in a great mood every day. I took a photo of the food I ate and posted it on Twitter with the caption, "Food freeloaded from someone tastes really good." Sharp-eyed readers started asking if I was dating a rich woman. I was in an even better mood and replied, yes, and she's a beauty. I stayed at home for 4 days, and then a big thing happened. I was cyber-bullied. A blogger anonymously posted a long article accusing me of having a ghostwriter for my article Candy-Coated Years. Candy-Coated Years is a sweet novel about my daily life with Sophia. I can't believe someone said it was ghostwritten. The comments below had piled up to thousands of floors. This kind of popularity is quite high in the novel circle and was still growing. The long article mainly pointed out that in recent years, when I started writing sweet novels again, my writing style was similar to that of an unknown writer. Moreover, the writing skills in the story line of my latest article were much higher in level than my previous works. The anonymous netizen also detailed the differences in writing between my previous and current works, comparing me with that unknown little writer in a very reasonable and well-founded way. Some ignorant onlookers were already calling me a cancer in the novel circle, saying things like plagiarism is shameful. Get out of the novel circle and I used to like him. How disgusting. I looked at the comments section full of curses, and my hands and feet turned cold. How could anyone believe such a clumsy accusation? I immediately contacted the novelist Joseph, who was accused of being my ghostwriter. To my surprise, he replied, "Aren't you the one who plagiarized me? I was about to publish the manuscript outline 3 months ago, and you published it first. You're a famous person, and you're suppressing me. I can't do anything about it. I've been in a slump for a long time. Please clarify this quickly, or I'll send you a lawyer's letter." What the hell? I forcefully hit the stress-relieving doll next to the computer desk. At this time, the editor-in-chief called me and said, "James, don't respond publicly until there's conclusive evidence. I believe in you. This time, someone must be deliberately trying to create momentum by writing on your popularity. We'll find out the truth as soon as possible and clear your name. Don't think too much. Teacher James, I'll always believe in you." Chloe's voice came from the other end of the phone, and I felt warm inside. The editor-in-chief gave me a couple more instructions and then hung up. I continued to browse the long article accusing me. I couldn't see the name or location, but the article was well organized and clear-cut. It seemed that someone really wanted to get me. I, James, have seen all kinds of storms. My novels have received both praise and criticism. I've been scolded before. How could I be brought down by such a small setback? I closed the computer and started browsing Google to find some inspiration. Unexpectedly, the Google novel circle was full of this discussion thread. Several big V bloggers unanimously analyzed the authenticity of the long article and concluded that I was plagiarizing. The comments in the comments section were all over the place. "If James didn't plagiarize, I'll eat shit upside down. I've always thought he was fishy. He couldn't write for so many years, and then suddenly he comes out with a blockbuster. So he was plagiarizing, it's not strange. He always delays updates. Maybe he didn't negotiate the payment with the ghostwriter well." Even though I tried not to care, hearing these words still made me feel bad. This novel poured out all my feelings for Sophia. Mia and William are not only the epitome of Sophia and me but also represent my entire youth. Now, instead of being stolen by a girl, I'm accused of plagiarism, as if my whole youth has been stolen. I forced a self-deprecating smile, trying to find some comfort in this difficult situation. In the afternoon, I received encouragement from authors all over the place. They all believed I didn't plagiarize, and several of them started to speak up for me, but with little effect. There were even some irrational people who went to their comment sections to scold them, saying they were in cahoots with me. Olivia was the most combative. She not only helped me clarify but also replied sharply to those who were scolding me in the comment section. Not just anyone can compare with our James. James, don't worry. If necessary, I'll write a horror novel to materialize the ghosts and find these people through the internet. Olivia said this in a voice message. I replied, no. This is a society ruled by law. Why are you more excited than me? She said, I've been in a bad mood these days because I'm stuck with writing. I've long wanted to find an outlet to vent my anger. These people just ran into me. Watch how I scold them gracefully and eloquently. When I wanted to see how the always literary Olivia would reply with elegant words, I was shocked by the extremely high mother content, coarse language, in her words, which was about 90%. These were the words typed by Olivia, who was known for her literary talent. Was she possessed? 5 days later, Sophia finished her work and asked me if it was convenient to have dinner together today. I wasn't in the mood. The situation was getting worse. Some people even started to criticize Olivia. What's more, some people said I didn't dare to reply and found a friend to take the blame, which seemed to confirm the ghostwriting and plagiarism. My mood was getting lower and lower, and I ate much less. Sophia said, then I'll go to your place to cook for you today. I haven't seen you for a few days, and I miss you so much. I wasn't interested and hung up the phone after chatting briefly. Half an hour later, Sophia arrived at my place. Looking at the mess all over the floor, she was a bit surprised. What happened? She noticed my unusual mood and came over to hug my arm. I was about to say nothing was wrong when suddenly, negative emotions gushed out like a flood breaking through a dam. Sadness and anger reached their peak in an instant. I felt dizzy and slumped down on the sofa, just shaking my head without saying anything more. Sophia looked at me with concern, looking into my eyes and saying, what exactly happened? I hesitated for a while and then told her the whole story. After listening, Sophia rationally helped me analyze. First, we need to find evidence to prove that you wrote this. Did Joseph mention in the private message to you when she wrote it? I answered, 3 months ago. She nodded and asked, then do you have any evidence to prove that you created this novel before her? Suddenly, I thought of something and blushed deeply. I thought, damn, how can I say this? Sophia said, James, you have to tell me. I'm a lawyer, and I can help you. I stammered, I have a memo. I record all the article inspirations in the memo. Counting from the initial plot, I probably started creating it 9 years ago. 9 years ago, when I just entered college and started dating you, I began to record the little details between us. Sophia didn't notice my embarrassment and continued to seriously analyze the case. You can send me a copy of the memo. Also, tell me the website information where the novel was published and that author's novel. If there are manuscripts earlier than hers, it'll be easy to turn things around. First, we use the useful information to issue a clarification statement, and then send lawyers' letters to Joseph and several Big V bloggers who are manipulating public opinion. I showed an expression of utter despair and said, it seems like there's no other way. I sent the memo to Sophia. The file was dozens of gigabytes. From her shocked eyes, I could see her deep suspicion. She asked, what did you write to take up so much space? I replied, just some inspirations. I scratched my head awkwardly. However, after she opened the memo, she was even more shocked. She read it silently for 4 hours without saying a word. I accompanied her and watched as various expressions appeared on her face: sadness, joy, loss, and excitement. Finally, she said in a trembling voice, James, I'm sorry. She closed her phone and said, I didn't know you ate such a bad-tasting hamburger that day. I replied, it's okay. I'll treat you to one someday, and we'll be even. I patted her back indifferently. Sophia said speechlessly, these evidences are actually quite sufficient. I'll sort them out tonight, and we can discuss the compensation issue tomorrow. She turned on my computer and started copying the memo with a USB drive. I watched her busying herself for me and felt somewhat touched. I said, I'll stay with you. She shook her head and said, no need. You go to bed first. You being here will also affect my concentration. However, when I went back to my room, I still couldn't sleep all night, scrolling through the endless insults directed at me on my phone. There were from the novel circle, my fans, and also some ignorant onlookers outside the circle. For the first time, I realized that the internet keyboard could also kill. Those executioners tapped the keyboard casually, pointing fingers at innocent people. Their words turned into invisible blades stabbing at people, and you were powerless against so many people, feeling deeply helpless. I saw that Joseph updated a sentence on Twitter, the innocent will be cleared. The buried truth will eventually surface in the light. I saw more people forwarding the original long article, scolding me to pieces under the banner of justice. As I watched, I felt inexplicably restless. Before I knew it, it was already 3 a.m. I couldn't sleep, so I groped my way to the living room in the dark. By the moonlight, I saw Sophia's slender figure curled up on the sofa, covered with a coat. I went back to the bedroom to get a quilt. When I walked up to Sophia and was about to cover her with the quilt, she suddenly opened her eyes, sat up, the coat she was wearing fell off, and the strap on her shoulder slipped. Our eyes met. Well, you know what happened. Let's skip a dozen words. The next day, I opened my eyes tiredly, feeling like my waist was about to fall apart, and my whole body was weak. I walked to the living room. There was breakfast on the table and a note left by Sophia. I've gone to the company first. I'll contact you when it's done. Looking at the note, I felt warm inside. I casually glanced at the sofa and smiled with satisfaction. These 2 days, whenever Sophia was free, she came to accompany me, cooked for me, helped me clean the room, and took care of me attentively. She said she was accompanying me, but actually, she was watching over me, afraid that I might do something stupid. I was speechless. Sophia's habit of overthinking would never change. My parents back in my hometown also knew about this. They asked me if I needed help. Looking at Sophia in the kitchen, who was like a cool cook, I said cheerfully, "No, everything will be fine." In the end, they still didn't feel very comfortable with me, but because they were too lazy to come, they sent my second cousin to visit me overnight. My cousin is a simple-looking person in her 30s, and she looks even stronger than me. When she came to my house, she was carrying a fresh old hen in one hand, a box of native eggs in the other, and a big bag of snacks. She said to me with a smile, "Little brother, I can't stay long. I have work at the unit. I'll just bring you these things and cook a meal before I leave. You adjust your mood. If I stay too long, your brother-in-law will be worried." While she was cooking, there was a knock on the door. I was in the bedroom at that time. I heard my cousin shouting outside, "Coming, coming." I immediately felt something was wrong and shouted, "Don't." When I ran to the living room barefoot, my cousin and Sophia were already looking at each other in surprise. My cousin looked at me in confusion and asked, "Who is this?" Sophia replied nervously, "I'm Mr. James's lawyer." "He's my client." "Really?" Sophia stared at the apron my cousin was wearing, which she had worn before, and said in a trembling voice, "I'm here to help him deal with the recent reputation infringement incident." My cousin said, "You lawyers work so hard. You still have to come over so late." My cousin gave her a suspicious look, then went back to the kitchen and said, "Miss Lawyer, wait a moment. The meal will be ready soon. Stay and have some. James, take the lawyer lady to the bedroom to talk. The range hood is too noisy." Sophia looked confused. I nodded and then pulled Sophia into the bedroom. Looking at Sophia's nervous eyes, I got the idea of teasing her. So the next second, I pressed her against the door and kissed her deeply with her melancholy eyes. She bit her lip and said, "James, you're so bad. Dong, dong, dong." My cousin knocked on the door. Before she opened the door, Sophia quickly moved away from me. My cousin looked at Sophia and me standing in front of the door and said a bit embarrassed, "Sorry, the meal is ready. You two come out and eat first." My cousin brought the food to the table, gave Sophia a meaningful look, and asked, "Miss Lawyer, do you have a boyfriend?" I don't know if Sophia did it on purpose. She looked at me and then replied, "Yes." My cousin said, "What a pity. Our James is also a nice guy." My cousin rubbed her hands regretfully. Sophia asked in surprise, "Aren't you his wife?" My cousin said speechlessly, "What are you talking about? I'm his cousin. Don't talk nonsense. James isn't married yet." My cousin looked at her watch, patted her head, and said, "Oh, it's almost 9 o'clock. Little brother, I have a curfew. I have to go. You two eat slowly. Call me if you need anything." With that, my cousin took off the apron and left in a hurry, leaving Sophia and me staring at each other. "James, don't you think you should give me an explanation?" I seemed to see a faint red glow behind Sophia, and it was as if I saw God waving at me. "Mom, help! This is outrageous." When I opened my eyes, I was met with Sophia's affectionate gaze. "Don't stare at me like this. It's scary." The goosebumps all over my body ruined the ambiguous atmosphere. Sophia said, "You big liar. You lied to me that you were married and made me be your mistress." I said, "Wasn't it because you stood me up abroad? I'm so vengeful. I had to get it back. And I've been pretty good to you, right?" Looking at Sophia's teasing eyes, my voice got smaller and smaller. Finally, I said helplessly, "Well, what compensation do you want?" She said, "Take me to get the marriage certificate today." I looked at her in shock. Seeing that I didn't speak, she sighed and said, "You big liar. If I don't legally tie you to me with the law, I'm afraid you'll abandon me again like you did before." When I heard this, I got angry and said, "It was you who didn't reply to my messages, okay? I traveled all the way there, and what about you? You stood me up and even turned off your phone on Valentine's Day. I thought you were cheating on me abroad." Sophia snorted and said, "You big fool. Who else could I like besides you?" Actually, I came back to the country that day. I turned off my phone because I slipped back secretly. I was really busy at that time. My supervisor always had something to contact me about, so I turned it off directly. I originally planned to go find you as soon as I got off the plane, only to find out that you had also come to look for me. I didn't want you to feel regretful, so I didn't say anything. I'm sorry, James. I didn't do well before. Let me make it up to you double in the future. Listening to Sophia's affectionate confession, I felt a complex mix of emotions. Just as I was about to speak, Sophia continued, "Brother, let me help you solve this cyber-bullying issue first. If I handle it well, will you take me to get the marriage certificate? It's a deal." After saying that, without waiting for my response, she left my house directly. The next day, Sophia drafted the statement in long-form evidence pictures and sent them to my email. I also wrote a long tweet and posted it along with the evidence Sophia provided. I wrote, "First of all, I would like to thank the readers who have always liked me and the author friends who have always supported me. Secondly, I'm sorry for taking up public resources for so long. I didn't speak out not because I was afraid, nor because what they said was true. I've been collecting evidence these days. I believe that no amount of explanations can compare to presenting the evidence openly. 9 years ago, I started creating Candy Coded Years. At that time, I began my first relationship in life, and it was precisely because of this relationship that the work Candy Coded Years came into being. As everyone knows, fiction often reflects reality. My novels are my reality, my story. I've been in the novel circle for 5 years. In these 5 years, I've learned a lot and gained a lot. As the number of readers grows, I'm even more reluctant to disappoint those who like me. Every one of my works, from being immature to mature, was completed with my painstaking efforts and countless days and nights. They are more like children infused with souls by my pen. I won't hire a ghostwriter, and I definitely won't maliciously plagiarize anyone. In addition, the author Joseph and other people who incite public opinion to attack me will receive my lawyer's letters one after another during this period. The truth will never be hidden in the dark. After writing this, I felt much more relieved. I was so focused just now that I didn't open the evidence pictures Sophia sent me. I was shocked when I finally did. Sophia, by some means, dug out the real name authentication of the anonymous IP of the person who posted the long article, and it turned out to be Joseph. She also sorted my memo manuscripts one by one according to time and attached the message Joseph sent in private, saying that he wrote the outline 3 months ago. This completely cut off his last way of quibbling. It's clear at a glance which is longer, 9 years or 3 months. In the afternoon, a newly opened lawyer's account was pushed to the top of the hot search. Just by posting one video, it attracted tens of thousands of reposts and comments, and the term, "the coolest female lawyer in history," even appeared on the hot search list. I clicked on the video, and Sophia appeared on the screen. She said, "Hello, everyone. I'm Sophia, and I'm also Mia, the female protagonist in James's Candy Coded Years. James and I dated for 4 years in college, and then I went abroad. Due to various reasons, we lost each other. Now I've found him again. I believe those who have read the novel don't need me to elaborate on the details of our relationship. My classmates from the Massachusetts Institute of Technology can also testify that these experiences are a true portrayal of James and me. Now, due to the incitement of online public opinion, James has been personally attacked. As both his girlfriend and his lawyer, I can't tolerate this. I will, as Mr. James's client, solemnly send lawyers' letters to those who have hurt, slandered, and abused him. Thank you." Subsequent comments unanimously sided with me. I don't know if it was because of Sophia, the beauty, but the public opinion was pushed to an even higher heat. Besides Olivia and the other authors, as well as the editor-in-chief Chloe, many of my classmates specifically opened accounts to help me repost and clarify. Emma even posted a lot of candid photos of Sophia and me that I had never seen before. Even Ava reposted it and said, "The boy I couldn't even chase must have high moral character. How could he possibly do something like plagiarism?" Later, Ava was revealed to be the eldest princess of a wealthy family, attracting a large number of fans. Joseph was forced to issue a sincere apology, but apparently, the fans didn't buy it. In the novel circle, once plagiarism is confirmed, it means the end of one's career. Joseph will pay the price for his stupid behavior. Several Big V bloggers also deleted their posts one after another and apologized to me sincerely. The matter finally subsided. Sophia sent lawyers' letters to them without mercy and earned a large sum of mental damage compensation. Suddenly, I was about to become rich, and I felt a bit giddy. It's worth mentioning that because of Emma's blurry photos and Sophia's domineering speech, we attracted a large number of fans who were attracted by our looks. Some fans have already left comments asking me to update our couple's daily life. There are also those who specifically read candy-coated years because of Sophia's beauty and exclaimed in the comments about our beautiful love. On the day the matter was resolved, the editor-in-chief called me and said, "James, with such a capable girlfriend, write more sweet novels. The royalties will be substantial." I said, "Editor-in-chief, you sound like a Japanese commander-in-chief." Beads of sweat dripped from my forehead. Chloe's voice came from the other end of the phone again. "Baby, I also think it sounds a bit like that." The editor-in-chief said, "I've told you, don't call me baby in front of others." The editor-in-chief's earth-shattering roar made me move the phone away from my ear. Chloe said, "Okay, baby, stop," shouted. After hanging up the phone, I smiled maliciously. I seemed to know who Chloe said she liked. Early the next morning, Sophia, with dark circles under her eyes, burst into my house and slapped me awake. "Damn it, what are you doing?" I said. "I don't have to work today. Can't I sleep a little longer?" I saw Sophia rummaging through my house, saying, "Get up and get married." I said speechlessly, "It's only 4 in the morning. The marriage registration office opens at 9. She said, "Then we'll go and queue up first." I ignored her and was just about to lie down again when I saw her raise her hand high. She stared straight at me and said, "I didn't sleep a wink last night. I came to find you early this morning. I'm not going to let you run away again." I said speechlessly, I'll go. But just let me sleep for another half an hour." I struggled to break free from her and buried my head in the quilt. Sophia shouted, "I can't wait even a minute." The sequel to the story from Sophia's perspective is about to begin. If you like it, remember to share it with your friends. Since the moment James burst into my life, I found that the world around me suddenly became colorful. He was warm-hearted and cheerful, occupying my heart like a prairie fire. After graduating from college, for the sake of my dream, I chose to study abroad. After going abroad, we had a time difference, so our chatting time decreased, and we had a lot fewer common topics. I saw him dozing off on the video call while I was sharing my daily studies, and I laughed at him, calling him a big fool. I became more and more anxious, afraid that he didn't love me anymore, afraid that he couldn't endure the long-distance relationship. I said I really hoped we could spend Valentine's Day together once, so I secretly bought a ticket to go back for the festival and turned off my phone so that no one would disturb us. However, he also came to my country, and we missed each other. When I got my phone back, I saw 99 messages on it. I felt mixed emotions. I didn't want him to regret buying the ticket. It was enough for me to regret alone. So I replied to him, "Sorry, I had a last-minute case yesterday, and my phone ran out of battery, so I didn't have time to tell you. Happy Valentine's Day." But he told me we should break up. When I tried to send another message, there was a red exclamation mark next to the message box. I knew I wasn't a qualified girlfriend. I couldn't be with him all the time, so I didn't dare to contact him. I accelerated my studies, just wanting to go back and see him as soon as possible. In the past few years abroad, I was almost constantly busy. Finally, I returned to the country, but I still didn't dare to contact him. I admit I'm a coward. I was afraid that even if I tried to keep him, he wouldn't turn back. He called me. I asked him if he wanted to get back together, and he told me he was married. He never lied to me, so I believed him. I thought I could use all my knowledge to help him divorce and get the most divorce property. If he was willing, I could even marry him. I thought I was crazy. I added him as a friend out of nowhere. After a long time, I received his voice message again. He was drunk and mistook me for his editor. Was his married life not going well, so he went out to drink and called me? My thoughts were a bit malicious, but I couldn't help thinking like this. Years of calm and restraint collapsed the moment he called. I felt so useless. I asked him for his location, put on a coat, and rushed over. I took him out of the private room, and he vomited all over me. I took him back to my home, and he wouldn't let go of me, shouting words I couldn't make out. It was as if we were back in our college days. The next day, when I saw the injuries on his body, I got angry. How had his marriage become like this? He was actually abused by his wife, but he didn't dare to face this problem and never said a bad word about his wife. I couldn't control my impulse to meet him. I knew it was immoral, but I just wanted to see him. He asked me what I was doing and if I wanted to be his mistress. I should have refused. I shouldn't have destroyed someone else's family for my immoral feelings, but I didn't. I answered yes. I was such a despicable person. I wanted to stay by his side, but not as a friend. I would go crazy if I did. I became his mistress. I went out to eat and shop with him, doing all the things we should have done on Valentine's Day 5 years ago. That night, he asked me if I would marry him if he got divorced. My body trembled slightly. I couldn't control my desire to be with him, and I didn't say anything. He seemed a bit angry and left directly without even saying goodbye. I didn't dare to speak either. I'm a coward. I was afraid that even if I tried to keep him, he wouldn't turn back. He called me. I asked him if he wanted to get back together, and he told me he was married. He never lied to me, so I believed him. I thought I could use all my knowledge to help him divorce and get the most divorce property. If he was willing, I could even marry him. I thought I was probably crazy. I added him as a friend out of nowhere. After a long time, I received his voice message again. He was drunk and mistook me for his editor. Was his married life not going well, so he went out to drink and called me? My thoughts were a bit malicious, but I couldn't help thinking like this. Years of calm and restraint collapsed the moment he called. I felt so useless. I asked him for his location, put on a coat, and rushed over. I took him out of the private room, and he vomited all over me. I took him back to my home, and he wouldn't let go of me, shouting words I couldn't make out. It was as if we were back in our college days. The next day, when I saw the injuries on his body, I was angry. How had his marriage become like this? He was actually abused by his wife, but he didn't dare to face this problem and never said a bad word about his wife. I couldn't control my impulse to meet him. I knew it was immoral, but I just wanted to see him. He asked me what I was doing and if I wanted to be his mistress. I should have refused. I shouldn't have destroyed someone else's family for my immoral feelings, but I didn't. I answered yes. I was such a despicable person. I wanted to stay by his side, but not just as a friend. Otherwise, I would go crazy. So, I became his mistress. I went out to eat and shop with him, doing all the things we should have done on Valentine's Day 5 years ago. That night, he asked me if I would marry him if he got divorced. My body trembled slightly. I couldn't control my desire to be with him, but I didn't say anything. He seemed a bit angry and left directly without even saying goodbye. I didn't dare to speak either. I'm a coward. I was afraid that if I opened my mouth, can't help but ask him to divorce today. After that, I didn't see him again. I shut myself in the company and started looking for information on various divorce cases, trying to help him get the most divorce property. I spent days and nights poring over these divorce files and finally completed a preliminary plan. One day, I went to his house to tell him this news, but I saw him hugging a girl downstairs, and the girl gave him a heart-shaped cake. I was so jealous that I almost went crazy. I drove away and found a bar to drink alone. Images of him and another woman hugging kept popping up in my mind. Did he find a new mistress because I didn't visit often? The more I thought about it, the angrier I got. I took a taxi and rushed straight to his house. At 2 a.m, I saw him put the cake on the table. At that moment, my rationality snapped. But he told me that she was just his editor, and she was heartbroken, so he was just comforting her. The reason sounded lame, but I really believed it because James never lies to me. I was still his mistress. Since he didn't want a divorce, I would wait until he wanted to and left that woman. We were like an ordinary couple, holding hands and taking walks. On the surface, everything seemed peaceful. However, beneath the sweet appearance, I was struggling painfully. I was in the dark, not honorable. I stayed by his side through such despicable means, yet I was content. One day, he went to a class reunion. I waited for him downstairs early. Bored, I scrolled through my WeChat moments and happened to see a video of a woman confessing her love to him. Without thinking, I rushed into the private room and said unreasonably, "He's married, and I'm his mistress." When I took him out, I looked back at the woman standing there in a daze and a victorious smile curled up on my lips. Even if I was a mistress, I had to be the only one. Later, he was cyber-bullied, and I felt extremely distressed. I rationally helped him deal with the problem and asked him to trust me. When he hesitantly sent me the memo, to be honest, I was shocked by the dozens of gigabyte memo file. I couldn't help but wonder what he had written to take up so much space. After reading it, I was even more shocked. It turned out that it recorded every bit of our lives, and his novel was about our story. It took me 4 hours to finish reading all the content in the memo. I suddenly realized that we had experienced so much, yet we still drifted apart. It was my fault. I kept apologizing because my negligence had let down his sincere and passionate love. I started working overtime, working like crazy, just to help him sort everything out. I asked someone to find out the IP address of the instigator, which was the unknown writer Joseph. I sneered. Such a person still wanted to ride on our James's popularity. I would definitely sue him until he was bankrupt. One day, I finally sorted out all the clues and evidence and drove to James's house. To be honest, before knocking on the door, I heard the sound of cooking in the house. I had a rough idea in my mind, and my hands were shaking a little. But I still knocked on the door. I wanted to see what kind of woman he had married. A woman in her 30s opened the door. She was simple and honest. She was so lucky. James gave me up for her. On the surface, I looked at her calmly, but inside, I was almost crazy with jealousy. I didn't know how many times my psychological defense had collapsed. It was all for him. However, later the woman left. It turned out that she wasn't James's wife, and James wasn't married. I was overjoyed. He had always been mine. I made a decision on my own and said, as long as I help him solve the cyber-bullying issue, I'll become his wife. I'll marry him. I quickly returned to the company, sorted out the materials as fast as I could, and even helped him post a video to clarify. I asked many of my college classmates to help us repost and prove. To be honest, I had a hidden agenda. In the video, I clearly stated that I was his girlfriend. I wanted everyone to know that James was mine. Finally, the truth came to light. I couldn't wait to go to his house and rummage through for the household register. But he wanted to sleep a little longer. Humph, no way. I wanted to be the first woman to get the marriage certificate today. For the first time, I hated why the marriage registration office opened so late. Once we got the certificate, this boy I had loved for so many years would belong to me forever.